Hello, everybody, and welcome to Podfluxxx episode number 44 ish. See, you may have noticed that you did not hear our dynamite voices or see our lovely faces last week. We had a scheduling snafu where I thought we were going to do a podcast and Ricky was like, not so much. So, Rick, you had a crazy week last week. I see that Reyes is now a red belt, right? Which makes
Yeah.
him probably like 3 to 5 degrees tougher than you and
Yep.
like 10 to 12 degrees tougher than me. So, I'm sure you're a proud papa tonight. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. Becky was the closing manager at our gym, so it was kind of anarchy over there. So I got stuck running him around town and doing stuff all week. So just brown and a half belts left, and he'll be a black belt. So
All right.
we're getting there.
Pretty good. I
Yeah.
it's funny how I don't understand how they developed the scale on which the colors earn merit.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, there's a joke to be made somewhere in
Yeah.
there that's gonna
I'm
just get
sure.
us in a lot of trouble. So
Yeah.
we're gonna skip right over it.
We'll do it 3 times.
Um, so there is a bunch of stuff going on last week and this week. There were a couple of pay-per-views and whatever. But the first thing I wanted to ask you was, did you see the Velveteen Dream pop up in Albany? I know it sounds like old news now, but it was 10 days ago, and 10 days might as well be forever
Yeah.
in the world of wrestling. But I was curious to see what you thought about this, so I made a little note about it to remember. Where you at on Patrick Clark, the Velveteen Dream?
Uh, it's tough, because this could date it back to this whole speaking out thing. Remember, I think it was 2020 when all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff happened, and uh, so I don't know. I mean, I see why people wouldn't want to support it. I mean, everyone makes mistakes, and it seems like he was pretty genuine when he made his. Did you see his apology to
Yes,
everybody?
his very
Yeah,
public apology. Yes.
yeah. So I mean, if only time will tell, if it's really true, right? Because I mean, if he goes and then another year or two gets in trouble again for something similar or whatever, then obviously he's not living right again. So, but I mean, I don't know. I don't see any problem with him being on a show if fans aren't going to support the show. I don't think he should be a mystery like he was and just pop up and kind of throw
Yeah.
everybody off. I think that's a little unfair. Um, to be honest, like if it really bothered people that much, they could have went to the promoter or whomever and asked for their money back. And
Right.
maybe that will make promoters think twice before doing that again. Because if everybody there was really upset, they should have just asked for their money back, um, and then left right away, like left during the match or something, to show that he's not going to have a positive effect on wrestling. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a promoter, so I don't really have to worry about that stuff. Uh, I'm not a booker, so I don't have that type of stress. I guess it would be more, what do you think? Since you're in that position, let's
Mm.
say you had the opportunity to have him on the show last minute. What do you do? Do you put him on and hope for the best? Do you, because the hype that you'll
See,
get is not going to be positive,
right.
for the most part. So what would you do in that situation?
We're at a disadvantage in VPW that outside of our super loud and loyal and enthusiastic fan base,
Right.
really nobody seems to know that we exist until somebody who is affiliated with us does good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that is affiliated with VPW gets on TV, and there's the Enhancement Talent Twitter page. I don't know if you've ever seen that Twitter page. Basically, when you see somebody on WWE or AEW doing a job, there's a Twitter page called Enhancement Talent that gives you a bio of who
Oh,
that person is.
that's cool.
Right? So we tend to
Yeah.
pop up there a lot
Right.
when, or like in certain spots where somebody will be like, all of a sudden somebody gets important and it's,
Yeah.
Ricky Reyes, a former VPW Tag Team Champion, like,
Yeah.
so that's the only type of real notoriety that we get. But I don't want, and I wouldn't want for our like first real splash
Right.
to be something with a negative connotation.
Right.
Like I had never heard of this
Right.
but I already forgot the name of the
Yeah.
indie in Albany.
I didn't even look at it. Yeah, but
Uh but the first time I'm hearing of them,
right.
it's something controversial. And that's the kind of
Right.
thing I feel like you kind of want to stay away from. On the
Yeah.
other hand, everybody and their mother will look you dead in the eye and say, everybody deserves a second chance. But when it's come to giving out the second
That's
chances,
advanced.
no,
Nobody wants to be the first one to do it. That's the
right,
thing.
right, and everybody's got something to say about somebody not deserving that
Right.
second chance. So
Right.
it's hard. And then you got the you got people in the locker rooms who want to get over on social media.
Yeah.
So they'll immediately be like, "Oh, I'm never working this company again," and then it gets all the quote tweets and
Yeah.
all the popular bullshit. And it was like, first of all, I never heard of that company, had no idea you were working there. You weren't drawing a house for them to begin with.
Right.
But the do-gooders of the world are, they're giving you your flowers now because you said something. So, it's a really, really weird situation because you would want to use, like, that's somebody who you could bring into your show, into your locker room, and he's got a wealth of experience from the absolute right people to have been getting these lessons from. Not experience, but knowledge.
Right.
He grabbed a headlock wrong one day, and Shawn Michaels was the person that corrected it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you do something and that guy's like, "Oh, you know what? Shawn Michaels told me," that's the advice. I'm a young wrestler. That's the advice I want.
Yeah. Of course.
But you can't have him. You can't have him. And if you do have him, this is the kind of shit that you get. So,
Yeah.
as being part of a committee that makes decisions for an independent wrestling company, I would stay miles and miles away until it became more widely accepted.
Right.
Somebody starts doing it, and then somebody else uses them, and then somebody else uses them, and then you're kind of doing one of these, like, I don't hear anything yet. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So, that now it's the coast is clear, but it's not everybody's gonna have the same opinion I do.
Yeah. That was. I remember after the whole speaking out thing, I think Joey Ryan tried to run a show. I want to say somewhere like in Tennessee or something on
Yes.
some sort of convention. And then people found out that he was running it or in charge. And then the show got canceled,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
That's
even
that,
for,
that's the other thing too. Like first of all, he was trying to run that show like under the veil of darkness. Like
right. Yeah.
nobody knew about it until it came down to like the flyer, and it was like
Yes.
very, very small, like
Yeah. He was
Bar
small in the
Wrestling
corner.
presents,
Yeah. Right.
But it's also that kind of shit. Like people have gone out of the internet's a crazy place.
Yeah.
And wrestling fans are among the most dedicated, but also the strangest people on the planet. Like Joey Ryan went out and got a real job,
Yeah.
and somebody found him doing that real job,
And then got him
posted the
fired
picture
from it.
on Twitter, and
Yep.
went and got him fired.
Yeah. It was at Disney. Yeah, I remember.
It's one thing that you don't want these people to be on your wrestling shows anymore.
Correct.
Cool,
Yeah.
great, I get it. Like, but that motherfucker needs to eat.
Yeah. Just let him live now. Like
Yeah,
you made your point. You know, you guys all pulled together, made the statement. Now just leave him alone and let him be. Cause I don't know, like from what I heard and saw, like, I guess he found religion and, really, really jumped into that. Ironically, and people were criticizing that, I don't know, maybe in his mind he needed that. I don't know, like, like to feel better about whatever, and or to move past that point in his life. I don't know. But at the same time, same thing, just let it be. Like, let him do whatever he wants to do. Like, he's not in the wrestling ring bothering you guys, so just forget about him.
yeah. Like he can't. You can't. Like, what is he supposed to do? Like, hey, who's who's the cook in Arby's wearing the Lucha mask?
Yeah.
Like it's.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But then again, also, religious people are the best workers on the planet. So who knows? But all
There
right,
you go.
I just wanted to catch what you thought about that. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Scott D'Amore. So Scott D'Amore, who many have called, the heart and soul of TNA wrestling for the last 20 years, has recently been fired. How much do you know about this?
I mean, like everybody else, found out, last minute. In 2005 and six, I was talking with Scott about coming into TNA when they brought in Aries and Roderick, and they were bringing in like a handful of us from Ring of Honor.
Right.
And Scott was my direct contact there. He even came to talk to me in person at a ROH show in Detroit, about, because he wanted to tell me face to face, like he really was trying, and Shelly and his group, Alex Shelley and all those guys, that they were all there, and Sanjay, they were all there, and they were like, yeah, man, they were genuinely like, look, man, we're trying, we're doing all we can. It's unstable right now, but we're really trying to get you a spot, or at least get you looked at and see what goes from there, But I was pretty disappointed because it's a wrestling company, and now they have a person that doesn't know wrestling in charge of it, And what I'm saying is it's a wrestling company. I mean, like, the storylines of what they're doing, the stars that they have and that they are making, make the house. They're
Mhm.
literally, it's a live event business for them. So I guess we'll see. They got a good roster still. It didn't look like anybody left. I don't know if anybody can, the way, legally or whatever. Everybody took a stand on it. That should say something for Scott. He was always a straight up guy with me. Every time I talked to him, I was not one of those guys begging him and on him 24/7. Like, he knew who I was. We talked, emailed a bunch, back and forth. So he was a good dude. And from the guys that are all, voicing their opinion on it, they're all good people too. So, in the wrestling business. So it's it's goodbye for now, but I don't think it's goodbye for forever for him.
Right.
Honestly, like, if AEW had half a brain operating back there, I would have gobbled him up and handed him all the paperwork and said, yeah, fix this real quick.
Right.
please help us, because he could be that huge connection to the wrestling audience for them that will keep them engaged in stuff that makes sense. Because over there in TNA, from what I've gathered, they're making it very, meat and potatoes, black and white, good guy versus bad guy, storylines and characters. And that's why they've been doing really, really solid shows for at least 2 to 3 years now that nobody's watching, which is crazy, because they have these matches and these stars coming in there having great times, and then, and great matches, and love it. And then it's just not enough to sustain a lot of guys,
Right.
But yeah, I was disappointed, but then I was kind of excited to think, where will he end up next, so I don't know.
I don't see him ending up any place next. I think he's got some type of emotional tie to TNA wrestling, and I think that if we don't see him back there, we'll see him try to start or do his own thing, which
Yeah,
is a very difficult undertaking at this point in pro wrestling.
yeah, he's done. I think it was Border City Wrestling. He used to run, and he's had a school forever, and and all those guys work for him. So, uh, yeah, I mean, maybe he will. I don't know. I'm just saying that if anybody, I know it won't happen, but if anybody had half a brain over there at AEW, uh, he would get lost in the shuffle in WWE, I think, unless he came into NXT to take over what Triple H used to do,
Yes.
and maybe make that brand, considering the fact that they're going to be on USA and on a big deal. Other than that, he doesn't help much with Raw and SmackDown. Maybe NXT, if you give him full reign of like just him and Shawn Michaels, like, here, you two figure it out. AEW needs help every way possible, and it's frustrating for me, that they're not doing good, and they're not taking advantage of the things that they should be. Like, they don't have a wrestling person in charge over there. They just have
Right.
wrestlers doing what they want. Just fucking stupid.
Did you see you hear about all like the reasoning for it there?
No,
I
I
think
didn't hear anything about that.
all right. So what they're saying was allegedly, because I was waiting for like the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was waiting for some like Vince McMahon kind of shit to come out. And I was like, all right, let me see it. I'll give it a couple of days.
Yeah.
And nothing ever came out. And I
Right.
was like, so what's the deal?
Yeah.
And it
Right.
turns out basically he asked for more money in the budget and they didn't want to give it to him. So he went to a bank and got a line of credit to try and buy the company from them. And they looked at him like he was some type of usurper, and they fired him.
Well, that was stupid. I don't know. That's what I mean. It's like he had to ask non-wrestling people, right,
Yep.
for money for wrestling, and they don't understand why you monkeys can't just do this for peanuts,
Right.
uh, which is, I don't know. It's ridiculous. You know, who knows? I know he doesn't need, to be working in the wrestling industry, but I really hope and wish AEW would just be like, give him something, even if they just gave him freaking Rampage or something, like, to control, or something.
Anything. All right. I want to move on did you see anything about the WWE class action lawsuit?
Which one?
There is a law firm who have put out an advertisement that if you ever worked for WWE and you were sexually assaulted, harassed, or
Oh,
trafficked,
God.
to get in touch with this law firm and they will get you money. Dude, it's like one of those. I don't think you guys have Celino and Barnes commercials down in Texas, do you?
No.
But it's like it was like one of those typical, like, have you been hurt in an auto accident?
Right.
It was like a JG Wentworth, we'll get
Yeah.
you your money today commercial.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that just random law firms now are jumping on this bandwagon here and trying to get involved, trying to get paid. Everybody's trying to make money off this now.
Well, yeah, of course, it's $1 billion corporation now. So chances are they'll give you six figures to just shut up and go away. And then you run off and, that's it. So no, I didn't see that. I wouldn't be surprised. I know for a fact there's this girl, Shelly Martinez.
Yes.
I trained years ago, and she ended up working for WWE. Well, I was there when she got her tryout from John Laurinaitis. So
How hard did he try?
yeah, I was 10 feet away when I saw what got her partially hired, I'm sure. So I was in the back. I think it was a Staples Center for some darks, and she came in. I don't know. Everybody was in the ring working out, and she came in. I would say an hour, 2 hours later than she was supposed to be. So all the extras are supposed to be there early, right? So we were all in the ring doing stuff, listening to Fit Finley and Arn Anderson, like they're just talking. And she comes walking like down the aisle, right? Like right in the middle of the aisle. First off, as an extra, do not draw this type of attention to yourself.
Right.
Okay. Early is on time. So if your call time is 12, be there at noon. So you're done with all your stuff and out of the way. Because the last thing you want to be doing is pulling up next to or alongside Batista or Jericho, or Shawn Michaels, and come wheeling your bag in, 3 feet behind them, like you're just chumming it up with the boys, right? Like my ass was already breaking a sweat and doing squats down by the ring while the rock stars were entering the building, right? Right. Anyways, we were in the ring working out. She comes in a very low cut top, super bright pink. I looked over at, like, I think it was Jazz and like Trish, and they instantly started whispering to each other something, right? So I knew this wasn't going to be good, but I ended up talking to her for a few minutes by the ring. Well, she's like, well, I'm supposed to have a meeting with Laurinaitis. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you're not here to work out because those things will fall out. And you smell like cotton candy with glitter makeup on. So clearly you're not planning on sweating. So yeah, okay. So then the meeting happens, and lo and behold, I'm like right in the same hallway. So she hands him this folder, and she's telling him, well, I got some new pictures, some updated pictures, and I wanted to let you know what I'm doing now. So he opens it up, and I'm watching his eyes look at this, and he's just kind of like salivating, and eyes got real big, and he's like, oh, these are really good. Yeah, yeah. So I'm like kind of like creeping, like trying to listen, like, oh, what else is he gonna say? And she's smiling and oh, thanks. I've been working out really hard. But so, anyways, she ended up getting hired, because then they started the ECW thing, which that's what she was a part of. And then they shipped her off to OVW. But and I think she's done a podcast where she talks about Batista bothering her or something. Or I know there was a story, an airplane story about her and RVD that got around real fast. And I don't know. It was just like, so I would imagine she's probably in that lawsuit or jumping on that bandwagon, because she was very much one of those girls trying to get rich and famous as soon as possible, by any means necessary.
Yeah.
So she was definitely a part of that era of girls, that didn't know how to wrestle, but were there because they were the real TNA. So it's pathetic to know that there's so many of girls like that make other girls that work hard look bad, right? Or be perceived as, gold digger type girls, or glory hogs, whatever you want to call it.
Eye candy.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, ever since all this stuff came out about those years and that time, I've been thinking about like how funny it was where Laurinaitis claims to be a victim in this whole situation, but he was, just as guilty as everybody else back there, if not more so, because at the time he was talent relations. And that's what she kept telling everybody that day, that she had a meeting with Laurinaitis. Oh, I have a meeting with Laurinaitis, this and that, like, first off, don't say nothing, right? If that's the case, if you're getting your job that way, they'll know you're getting your job. But you went around and just blurted it all out. So I'm sure she'll be coming out of the woodwork to voice her, quote unquote victimsness or whatever you want to call it. But she was hook, line, and she was sold on it. It was either that or she was stripping. She didn't care how she made that money. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes down to it. So
do you remember when she came to VPW, right?
I thought so.
She did, because I remember like her presence being very like auspicious. You know what I mean? Like, she kind of like went out of her way for everybody to hear every word of every conversation that she had.
Yes.
And like, she quickly like grabbed the lay of the land to try and figure out who was important. And important is it's relative, but I mean like to make sure she was talking to the right people, like, and I just remembered it was like instantaneous. But anyway,
imagine that in WWE though.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I thought of that, because if she was doing that at like a small indie to try and, I don't know, maybe get an extra $50 in her envelope, or to make sure she gets booked again.
Yeah,
I can only imagine what she was doing there, where there's literally millions of dollars hanging in the balance.
Yeah, and that was just one incident where I saw with her. I know she was in, the process there is to go multiple darks, so they see you repeatedly. So who knows what else, or who knows what happened that night at the hotel later that evening, or that weekend. I don't know.
The next thing I want to get to, we're switching gears to AEW here. AEW is building on their television to the CMLL pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out that having Hachitero and all these CMLL guys involved with the what the hell is the name of the Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club,
BCC. Yeah.
Yes, this is all building up the BCC going to Mexico,
right,
for the CMLL pay-per-view. So I wanted to see what you thought about Tony Khan taking, quote unquote, his top guys, building them in a storyline on his TV that's going to pay off on somebody else's pay-per-view, where he can't financially capitalize on it.
Well, we don't know that he can't, right? I mean, or he's not. I mean, I would imagine if there's a certain number of increased pay-per-view sales, maybe he gets a percentage of because of them coming over. I mean, I don't really know.
Well, he's already bending over backwards for CMLL. Do you know any of the other ins and outs of this CMLL AEW TV deal?
No. I mean, no, I don't, but that's not to say that that CMLL is not maybe paying the guys extra, or are they paying Tony to have the guys on there? Like how does this look financially behind the scenes is the real question. You know, he hasn't come out and said nothing, and he's usually terrible at keeping secrets as far as who's paying what and how he's getting money on these types of deals. I'm always weird with that stuff because he did it with AAA, you know, where he'd send Omega over there, you know, I don't know. And then when you show it on your TV, it just looks less than when he's going to Mexico to be in the main event. We don't understand as fans here what Triple Mania is, except for the fact that it's compared to as a WrestleMania. But, you know, I don't know. It's he can't book his own storylines with his own guys. Now he's using international stars for their own pay-per-view. So I don't know. I don't have much to say about it because of the fact that there's just not much to say about it except that, right? Like they're building up for another pay-per-view that doesn't really involve AEW as a whole. Now, are they going to pair up down the line and have like some sort of super show together? That could be interesting to say the least, right? So this could be the step towards that. I know for a fact that obviously Rocky's the one that's in charge of putting these people together and getting these deals done. So, so I would imagine that CMLL. I've worked for CMLL, not for the original owner Pac Alonso, but I know his family's still involved with them. But their style of booking when I was there was they would rather keep it in-house, and it was like sacred ground to work in Arena Mexico, and they took that seriously. And I don't know if people know this or not, but Rocky was banned from Arena Mexico, and he didn't get back in CMLL until Paco died.
Really? Tell us about that.
So when Rocky moved to Mexico City and when we did our split in Ring of Honor, none of this was told to me until right before we were about to go out, what the finish was of our match with the Briscoes.
Right.
So the night before, Rocky was in Boston and I wasn't booked on that show for some weird reason. So it was a Friday night. Well, he cut a promo that night saying that nobody's checked in on him or something. And it's like he was saying to Homicide, like basically people were leaving him behind and we weren't. But he had already worked out a deal to move to Mexico City, but he never told me. But I had already moved to Pennsylvania.
Right.
So the next night we're working the Briscoes and we're starting to put the match to now. The Briscoes had just come back from Pro Wrestling Noah where they had won the GHC junior belts. So we knew what the finish that they were going to win. So we kind of built the match up to where they would just hit their finish. And then I always volunteered to take the finish. So I just said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We'll do the finish. And then boom, pin me. So we worked the whole match out. And then Rocky came up to me kind of late in the evening and said, oh, hey, when this happens here, I'm just going to walk out. And I said, why?
Right.
And then he was like, well, that's what Gabe wants. And then that was the end of the conversation. So it took me forever to find Gabe because he's running away from me every chance he got. And then when I finally caught up to him, he said, oh, yeah, we're splitting you guys up. And then that was the end of the discussion. And then I said, and then what? And then he was like, oh, well, Rocky's not going to be around, so we'll figure it out. I was like, okay. None of this was, I was not aware of any of this. Well, Rocky had already worked out a deal to go back to CMLL as the Gray Shadow. And he was going to have a mask character gimmick. He was supposed to be teaming up with Mystico at the time. So he was going to be on top. So this stuff happens in Ring of Honor. He's in Mexico. I think we brought him back later that year while I was kind of just doing whatever. And then he challenged Brian. They had a match in December, and then that was it. Like they couldn't afford to bring him back. Well, over in Mexico, I was talking to him while he was down there, and he was just saying that he was frustrated because he was getting bumped down lower and lower on the card. Well, over there, you get paid on the house and on your position. So teaming with Mystico, he was making like $2,000 a night. So he was great. And then he started getting like booked out, but then it was like he was like third match. So you know it's big pay difference, right? So he got frustrated, talked to Konnan, and Konnan had him come to AAA and unmask himself. Well, when he unmasked himself, the only other person to ever do that was Eddie Guerrero. So when he unmasked himself, Paco explained that he would never ever step foot in Arena Mexico while he was alive. Like he was banned, right? So he stayed in AAA for a few years. That's when they did that Degeneration Mex with X-Pac, and then he brought Alex with him, Alex Kozlov, So and then now he's like stealing talent, right? So that was some heat there. So and then when he left Mexico and went to New Japan, when he left AAA, he got to work with New Japan because he was no longer affiliated with AAA. But CMLL was like, I don't care. We don't care that you work with New Japan. You can't work here. So he was still not allowed to come to Mexico. Then Paco passed. Well, when Paco passed, I saw him and Mystico on Twitter interacting a lot. So, and then he said something about coming back. I'll challenge you or whatever. And then that's when Rocky reappeared in CMLL, I'm sure through Mystico. Well, and then Rocky started booking Mystico on New Japan stuff, right? So they're, working with each other. But that was that story, So now Rocky has a lot of stroke in New Japan, and that's how he's getting these ins with these other companies, bringing New Japan stars, right? So like, it's no secret MLW has Kojima again as the world heavyweight champion, and Minoru Suzuki's there, and then Matt Riddle's there, and so it's just he's just that middle guy for everybody now,
I hope he's getting a piece of everybody's booking.
Well, that's the thing too, is I remember when Steve Corino booked me in Hustle, and prior to that, Rick Bassman was booking me in Hustle. Well, when I was getting booked with Rick Bassman, he wasn't a booking agent. He was just like a middleman, right? So my fees for Hustle at the time was only $600 a show, Well, when Corino booked me, like I think my third tour with Hustle, I had moved to Pennsylvania, and I told Steve, I said, can you handle my bookings? I don't want Rick booking me anymore. And he was like, yeah, no problem. So he called the office and said he's going to take care of it. Well, I got paid per show $1,500 from Corino booking me. So my first night, they hand me my money. I go to the back and I count it. And I went to Steve with the envelope and I said, somebody fucked up. I'm not trying to lose a finger here. Check, check to see, if this is the right amount of money, or is this for the whole week? Because that's not what we agreed on either. And then he said, what do you mean? And he goes, that's your money for tonight. And I'm like, Steve, we got like 3 more shows. And he goes, what's the matter? And he goes, isn't this what you were making? And I said, no, I was making $600 a night. And he goes, bro, I'm a worker. I get paid by the office to book you. I get another fee for that. That's my job. That's my real job. He's like, your money is your money. I would never take money off your table. And he goes, this is what you get for working here. He goes, Bassman was taking that money from you and keeping it.
Son of a bitch.
And Bassman was booking 3 other guys with me on that tour. So he was doing that with all of them. So it just blew my mind that, and then that's when I started really working with Steve, because I felt like more trust, right? Because he was like, look, you're not going to make a lot of money here. When I went to Puerto Rico, he goes, but you're going to learn, and he was honest, and if I wasn't going to make money, he would tell me. If I was, he was going to tell me, he told me up front. So anyways, I remember that so what I'm thinking, ultimately, the point of the story is Rocky's probably getting some sort of fee from CMLL, for booking top guys. And I know he's contracted with New Japan, and he's been working there for years now. And he's going to be the guy that's going to take Tiger Tori spot someday, I'm sure, and be that connection with all the internationals, that especially the independents now,
Right.
That's where Hattori's doesn't have a lot of influence, but Rocky does, right? Like MLW and AEW and, all these other places. So other than that, the old school guys are used to working with Hattori, but he still travels and does those big deals. But I know for a fact Rocky's always with him, like his carry-on luggage type thing, just learning the ins and outs of it. So.
Well, yeah, but the reason why I thought this was all crazy was it turns out that part of this is that when there's a CMLL talent booked on an AEW show, there can be no other Mexican talent.
Right.
Not AAA talent,
right.
Mexican talent.
Yeah, because the independents to CMLL are looked, it's like having an indie guy on a featured position on Monday Night Raw or something, they don't like that either. It's just as bad as AAA.
Very, very weird politics in Mexican wrestling.
Yes.
So another quick thing I wanted to see if you caught this week or last week. Did you catch Dave? Somebody fed him a clip of Triple H and Rock backstage from like 10 or 12 years ago, kind of like confronting each other and making like a veiled challenge for WrestleMania. And Dave thought it was current. And he reported it in the Observer that they shot this angle. They didn't air it on TV, but they aired it on the internet. And, he thought it was brand new when in fact it was very old.
I did not see that at all. I saw Dave was trending one day, but I didn't click on it to see why. This was probably it. He's an idiot, bro. Like I don't know. I've blocked him and his little minion, and because I can't I can't stand when they interact and argue with other fans about this stuff. It's just,
Mhm.
it would be a conversation I would walk away from. So I just block them so I don't have to see it at all because it's just going to anger me.
You know that the Observer Year End Awards came out,
Okay.
and Tony Khan has been unseated as the Booker of the Year.
Really?
Yes.
Heat, brother. Heat.
Paul Triple H Levesque is the Observer Booker
Oh,
of the Year.
oh no.
Oh, yes. WWE won Promotion of the Year,
Oh no.
and Meltzer's fan base are losing their absolute collective goddamn minds.
Oh, that's
Uh,
hilarious.
AEW basically won every other metric on there,
Of course they did.
right? And
Who was
so
wrestler of the year then?
it was Osprey.
All right. Of
Anything that was like a single or an individual, Osprey won.
course.
But it's like they were like, well, they've had the match of the year and the tag team of the year and the wrestler of the year and this of the year. How are they not the promotion of the year? And so finally I said to one of them, I was reading through it, I couldn't hold myself.
Of
And
course.
I was like, you know what? I was like, not for nothing, but like promotion isn't a fancy word for wrestling company. It's like promotion, as
Right.
in to promote. And
Yes.
you can't be considered promotion of the year when nobody watches your TV. And when you turn the TV on, the buildings look like somebody called in a bomb scare,
Right.
right? You're
Yes.
not promoting.
Promoting. Right.
Right. So yeah, the Observer fans are losing their minds. But Ricky, there was a New Japan show over the weekend, and I think it's time we called a time of death on the Bullet Club. Would you
Yeah.
care to
That,
start this one?
yeah, that was not what I was I don't know. I felt like they could have not pulled that trigger on Finley and Ziggler so quickly. You know, they could have gotten each other's faces. Finley could have told Ziggs that he needed to work his way up the New Japan ladder to get to him. I thought there was a better way to take the belt off of Finley at a much later time, but we are where we are, and unless they're planning on rebuilding the Bullet Club again, it doesn't look good. So I didn't like it. Maybe the match should have ended with Bullet Club beating the shit out of Ziggler and then let Ziggler run through all the Bullet Club guys to finally get to Finley at the Dome maybe next year. I would have done. Let Ziggler do the G1 and place high so he gets a global title shot. Like there's all kinds of different ways they could have did this to really drag it out, but they didn't. So which makes me think maybe Ziggler's not sticking around for very much longer. Maybe Finley gets it back from him. I don't
See,
know.
I thought the other way. I thought that maybe 2024 is the last year of Finley in New Japan. And maybe they want to take this new title that they uh, just introduced
Yeah.
and put it on a higher quality star instead of a guy that you know is walking out the door at the end of this contract, right? Because that's how the contracts work there. It's year to year.
Yeah, year to year. That makes sense too. I mean, I'm not. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as we had something that we need to build, and they're not building it this way, and how to rebuild it. But yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, yeah, that's very possible. I mean, a
Plus, that
lot of guys.
president over there, what has he ever booked?
Yeah, who do you ever beat? Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing though, with Ziggler having that belt, it's good. It's good for business. It's good for them. and you can't really argue it. If we were building dome to dome, I would have booked for the belt to get dropped then for Finley's sake. I'm booking for Finley, here,
Right.
just because he's the leader of the group, but I don't know the future of the group, right? So, and that's all. And a lot of those guys are not under contract there. I'm sure Finley is, or under something there, but it might not be a full year or whatever. But a lot of those guys, like Gabriel Kidd, he's not under contract. He's just per night type appearance. But so I don't know. But yeah, Bullet Club appears to be dead at this point.
All right, and then the last thing before we jumped into our WWE topic here, I did not get to the pay-per-view No Surrender yet, but Mustafa Ali is the new X Division champion.
Right.
So, how do you feel about that? Are you as stoked as I am to see that he popped up there and that he's immediately going to make a difference there?
Absolutely. I mean, him and Ziggler being there definitely move numbers for sure. So I'm super psyched that they're there and not in AEW being wasted away. And there's so many good matchups for Ziggler, for Ali, for Saban and Shelley. I mean, Kazarian, all those guys, man. Alexander, like they're you can't go. It's one of those places like what Ring of Honor was, back in the mid 2000s when I was there. Like you can't have a bad match with anybody in the locker room under any situation, So he fits like a glove. He'll be a star there, which is perfect. And then I just love the crossover with the New Japan, them being able to do that as well, which is, perfect. That Windy City Riot looks like it'll be 6,000 or 7,000 people.
Yep.
So it's almost double what we did when I was there, which was like a little over 3,000, which is going to be amazing. So yeah, it's just good business all the way around. It's smart because I think Ali can go back to WWE. Hopefully, give him some time here and let him help. And then hopefully it helps him in their eyes too. And they look at it like, okay, you can come back this time. We actually have something in concrete for you, so.
Well, speaking of going back to WWE, Ricky, did you travel the Peacock Waves to Perth, Australia this weekend for the Elimination Chamber?
I did. I watched it last night because I knew you'd ask. So I sat through it. I did.
So, 5 hours of TV show, 4 wrestling matches. What'd you think?
Candice LeRae is still bad at things.
She's the worst, bro.
She really is. Nia Jax.
Hold yourself right there, because I'm gonna rant here for a minute. Okay. To put on an extra hour of programming before your pay-per-view and to try to entice me, not me, the royal me, us, we, anyone who is not planning maybe on watching this whole thing, right? You're trying to sample me something, sell me something, and you show me Candice LeRae. First of all, it's goddamn disrespectful, right? Because to think that you're going to show a wrestling fan or a casual fan or a new fan, somebody that you want to take in your product and you want to be captivated, you want to hold their time and their attention span, and then you put that on and then expect me to want to sit through the rest of this show. Dude, I was fast forwarding through the kickoff because I was like, oh man, this thing's this long. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, okay, kickoff show, kickoff show,
Right.
kickoff show. Ooh, match. And then I
Right.
see Candice LeRae, and I was like, these people got to be out of their goddamn fucking minds. Right? Because already the ticker on the bottom of the screen says 5 hours and whatever. And it's an hour. It's an
Right.
hour of, I mean, it wasn't Booker T, but in most scenarios, it's an hour of Booker T going shucky ducky, quack, quack. Like,
Yeah.
no, no. I'd rather sit through Booker than have to
Right.
look at Candice LeRae because
Yes.
that's
Thank you.
bullshit. That girl's not good. She can't work. She can't wrestle. She's the phoniest looking phony of all of them.
Hmm.
And she's only got a job there because her husband, who is the second biggest, phoniest phony in that whole company, works there.
Right.
Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, she's awful. She just reminded me again that she was awful. Like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still bad at this. Uh, so I feel like that was like there's your bone for the year. Like, one of those trips. Like, you're definitely not gonna be on WrestleMania, girl, but we'll bring you 25 hours away from Earth to Perth, Australia. And that was bad. Nia Jax is still very bad at all things wrestling included. Um, she sat on mommy at one
Mhm.
point, which I felt really bad for. Uh, what else happened?
Well,
I the girls the girls elimination chamber was not good. I didn't think. I did
use your
not like
words
it.
wisely here because we might fight about this.
I didn't like it. Like, um there's only a few girls I think that work well in that type of environment. Uh, I just felt like there was good points in it. It just wasn't a good match as a whole. Like, you got to build that match like a six-man tag where you build everything up. And I didn't like the way it was done.
They had me in that match, I think probably until Liv Morgan got in the ring, right? That was my first actual full viewing of Tiffany Stratton.
Oh, the
And
blonde chick, yeah,
she's good. She
she does good
she
things.
she does good things. Her
Right.
things her things impressed me, not those
Yes.
things. Her things impressed me, right? Uh she was her athleticism impressed me.
Yeah.
Uh and she had little nuances that impressed me.
Yeah.
Selling, frustration,
Yeah.
intensity, covered one girl, she kicked out, urgently
Mm,
crawled over to cover the
mm,
other one, she
yeah.
kicked out. She
Mm,
made the all fuck face, like she gets
right.
it.
Right. Yeah.
I was impressed with that. Raquel Rodriguez does not impress me at all.
Yeah, she was bad. She was bad. She was one of them in there that I thought she just does either she's not getting it or I'm not sure because she hasn't done anything to make me think, oh man, she's really good. Like, she just doesn't. Like,
No.
she's doing the moves because that's what she was supposed to do at that time. There's no
Yes.
emotion behind it. There's no like venomous strike when she does certain things at that needed at that point. you know, it's just like, oh, weird little fall away slam thingy I'm supposed to do now. Like, I'll do it now. That's how I felt when I would see her.
Right.
Um, did she not get to the makeup artist beforehand either? Because she had
We
nothing up here and all the
yes.
other girls have things. So she looked like she just jumped out of the shower, threw her shit on and ran down to the ring.
I don't know if she can have makeup because it just recently came out. I saw on Twitter or something that she found out that she's got some like weird skin condition.
Oh, okay. That would make
Right.
sense.
So, and I think that's part of why she's been off for so long. And
Mm,
I think that's part of why she's so covered up.
okay.
So,
Um, that's fine, but her work wise is
yeah.
not good. It's not. I'm sorry. It's
She
just
could have
like if
brushed
you're
her
gonna
hair
make,
too, though. Like, she looked like she rolled out of bed and went to the ring.
yeah, like if you're gonna make this such a big deal to be in this elimination chamber, it's got to be with the tippy top girls. I mean, if seriously, like I know people are like over Natalia and this and that and everything else, but she helps make that whole flow better because she'll understand when and where to do all these
Player
things, you know.
coach.
Yeah, and you need that. And in that environment, it's like a Royal Rumble, right? Like you always have to have somebody in there at all times that's going to be steering the ship.
Hmm.
Um, so I didn't like that match. I like the guys better. It wasn't anything great. I don't know if I'm just over the elimination chamber as a whole because now it's a regular thing instead of coming out every 2 or 3 years when shit gets out of control. Now we put them all in here. We don't need a men's and women's on that night either. Maybe it's just
Bingo.
women's. Maybe it's just women's. Maybe it's just men's. Now they're making it too much. It's just I don't know. They put them in there because they needed guys in that match. Not they didn't the guys didn't need that match, which is frustrating. So, but uh, it set us up for WrestleMania, right? Which was what it was supposed to
Hmm.
do. So there we are.
Um, yeah, the women's. I think I might have liked the women's chamber a little bit better than the men's chamber,
That's
but
not
I
saying
think
much though, but that's what I'm saying. It's like they were both like which one was badder or less bad, you
right.
know. So
What I did like on the evening was how they're treating the chamber match like the Royal Rumble match. Like, I
yes,
don't know
correct.
if you noticed how Michael Cole was like, only one person has been the second person to enter the chamber out of a pod and
Right.
win.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
they're putting stakes on the chamber
Yeah.
and trying to make it feel more
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
I feel like overall their presentation while calling the matches inside the venue all feels more sports oriented
Yeah.
lately than it has in the past.
It definitely is. And I was going to say this last week, but we didn't have one last week.
Mhm.
um, about did you see how they had what's his name call out Michael or is it
Michael
Michael?
Chandler call out
Yeah,
what's his nuts.
McGregor. Yeah. So I think because it's going to go back to being more sports based because if they are going to bleed the two with things like that, you cannot have a UFC world champion sitting in the crowd if everyone's doing 19 Canadian destroyers in the ring and then just selling goofy and then a guy with his hands in his pockets is flying around the ring. So they know that the product itself has to be more sports based to be able to have those stars from another world come in and feel like, yeah, I belong here, instead of Mike Tyson and AEW saying, the fuck is this,
Sleeping in the
um,
crowd.
right. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, that was something that I did notice watching this pay-per-view. It felt different than before. It wasn't so commercially. It wasn't so like, um, well, we're just entertaining everybody. We're just the best at it, so yeah, because you haven't seen like silly New Day commercials and stuff like that they've had in the past, right? Where kind of like blood feud, and then all of a sudden, Big E's dancing on a giant piano.
Right.
Um, so
Juggling pancakes.
exactly, yeah, right. So yeah, I figured it was going to be that way. This was a slow process with the Endeavor, kind of slowly becoming more sports based, which is what we need at this
Right.
point.
Well, I mean, if you look back at when this sale, when we first started talking about this, we said that they'd play nice with the old man for a little while and then he'd be out, which
Yeah.
has happened. And
Yeah.
then we
Exactly.
said how they were going to start to bleed the two together,
Yeah.
which now has happened. Which brings me to my last question for the evening. And I'm so happy that you brought up the Michael Chandler call out of Conor McGregor. Do you think we will see at WrestleMania 40 Conor McGregor fight Michael Chandler?
Not fight him, no, but I could see an appearance by Conor McGregor at WrestleMania to maybe answer that challenge. I think they'll use WWE's platform for gigantic press conferences for UFC fights.
Yes, but then are these going to be worked interactions?
Well, you don't need the interactions per se, as you just need Conor McGregor to go down there and answer the challenge and let Conor McGregor do whatever Conor McGregor is going to do. That's going to happen regardless, and just let it be its own thing. I think that would be awesome. I think the fact that didn't they do something with the Anaheim sports Honda Sports Center like agreement for what is it? So many UFCs and WWE shows. They're not joint.
But like one or the other. I bypassed an article about that this week. I didn't stop to read it. So
so the thing was the Anaheim arena that was the sports arena is going to host or one bidding to host maybe 5 UFCs and 5 WWE events in the next few years or whatever. So in order
to host any AEW,
the bidding was at an all-time low for that one. They'll be in Reseda that week.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to level up the playing field of realism in the WWE for them to be on the same level as the UFC, right? So I think the WWE platform though is perfect for a Conor McGregor answer, right? So let's say we're not doing this thing until maybe August. So now you have Chandler calls him out here, and then McGregor shows up at Mania to answer, and then we have the fight in August. Boom. I just sold you 10 million fucking pay-per-views,
Isn't it crazy how we don't have such better jobs by now?
Right, exactly.
It's almost like we've been held down by our attitudes and personalities for,
that's so weird. I thought I was charming. I thought Conflux in the back just were the nicest guys to hang out with. And what 10 bell salute? Like, we're not going out there.
Speaking of, did I tell you about Radio's son?
No.
You remember the little guy?
Yeah, he was my favorite.
Well, 2 weeks ago,
oh no,
I went to see his first professional wrestling match.
Oh dear Lord.
He's being trained up here at a school that, I don't like to shout out everybody's names. He's not at the one that you would think he'd be at.
Okay.
But anywho, he told me like about a month, maybe 2 months ago, hey, I'm having my first match. Will you come watch it? Because he does the sound and everything at VPW. So for the last 5 years, we've been sitting next to each other at a table, and he listens to me complain.
Right.
And I tell him, watch this guy's feet. Watch how he does this. This is what they should have done there.
Right.
He gets it. It's in his head. So he was like, hey, will you come down and watch? So I go to watch, and he comes through the curtain, and I've got no idea that he's a heel. I just assume he's going to be a babyface because he's new and he's green and it's his first match. Right?
Right.
He comes through the curtain, and starts hitting the salute, and I'm just like watching this kid, and it is
What have we done?
It is a child who grew up watching Conflux. Okay.
This is not good for wrestling.
And he was wrestling Kono, and he hooks Kono up for right.
What?
Kono is the trainer.
Okay.
He hooks Kono up for like a power bomb or a pile driver.
Okay.
And somebody in the crowd yells something at him. He's like and he turns to look at the guy who yelled at him and just goes, and I was like,
oh man. Attitude era Sean.
What did he do to this kid? All in all, I was pleasantly surprised. It was way better than anybody's first match, deserves to be.
Yeah.
So I was happy for him. I had a page of notes for him afterwards, but I just figured I'd let you know. Funny story.
Tell him we're proud.
We are proud.
We are proud.
Anywho, there it is. We just said something nice about somebody. We might as well stop here.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
Running the gimmick right now. This has been Podfluxxx. Ricky, I'll catch you on the other side. Mother Fluxers, we are out of here.